Right now, you are going to use the bathroom. You will reach for a roll of toilet paper without thinking. You will not question it. You will not wonder what the billions of humans who came before you did when that roll simply did not exist. But here's the thing. Toilet paper is younger than the airplane, and what people used before it will genuinely surprise you. Your earliest ancestors used whatever the land provided. Leaves were the obvious choice. Smooth, broad leaves. Not every leaf, of course. Early humans learned fast which ones were soft and which ones caused problems no one wants to experience twice. Moss was popular too, especially in wetter climates, because it was soft, abundant, and mildly antibacterial. Grass worked in a pinch. So did corn husks once agriculture arrived. The natural world was essentially an open catalog of solutions, and humans browsed it freely.
Then came something more refined. Stones. Smooth, flat, carefully selected stones. This sounds alarming to modern ears, but archaeological evidence confirms this was genuinely widespread. Ancient Greek and Roman latrines have yielded small ceramic pieces called pessoi, purpose-made for exactly this task. Some had names inscribed on them. Scholars believe people scratched the names of enemies onto their pessoi. Cleanliness and pettiness, neatly combined. You have to admire the efficiency.
The Romans had a system that historians have studied closely. In public bathrooms, which Romans used communally and without apparent self-consciousness, there was a shared sponge on a stick. One sponge, shared by everyone. The philosopher Seneca the Younger referenced this implement in his letters. He called it a xylospongium. It was rinsed between uses in a channel of running water or a bucket of vinegar, and considered, by the standards of its time, perfectly hygienic. By the standards of yours, it is something else entirely. But germ theory would not be discovered for another 17 centuries, so no one involved knew to worry. Water, of course, has always been the most logical answer. And for billions of people across history, and still today, it remains the primary method. Ancient civilizations across the Middle East, India, and Asia used water and the left hand. This is not a coincidence. It is exactly why, across dozens of cultures spanning thousands of years, the left hand became the designated unclean hand. It is why eating with your left hand was, and in many places still is, considered deeply rude. Your social customs today carry a memory of this ancient hygiene practice inside them, whether you know it or not.
In medieval Europe, wealthy households used rags and linen scraps. The very rich had cloths that were laundered and reused. Rural communities used hay or straw. Sailors had their own solution entirely. A rope trailing behind the ship in the sea. Moving water, perpetual motion, minimal supplies. Maritime records from the 16th and 17th centuries reference this practice. It was practical. It required nothing. It was also something you would not want to visualize for too long. Here is where history gets genuinely interesting. Paper existed in China by the 2nd century, and it did not take long for someone to make the connection. The first written record of paper being used for hygiene comes from the scholar Yan Jitui, writing in 589 AD. He stated explicitly that he would not use paper containing quotations from scholars or sacred books. This implies that non-sacred paper was already in common use. China was solving this problem with paper, while Europe was still debating which stone felt the smoothest. By the 14th century, Chinese records show that the Zhejiang province alone was producing 10 million packages of hygiene paper annually. 10 million packages for one region. The scale is staggering. Meanwhile, in Europe, the printing press had not yet been invented. Paper was still expensive. No one was using it for this.
The shift in the Western world began with newspapers.
As paper became cheaper in the 17th and 18th centuries, people began using old pages from newspapers and almanacs. The Old Farmer's Almanac, first published in America in 1792, famously had a hole punched in the corner of each copy. The hole was not decorative. It was so the almanac could hang on a nail in the outhouse and be used page by page through the year. The publishers knew exactly what their readers were doing with the product. They simply never said so directly. Commercial toilet paper arrived in 1857 when Joseph Gayety began selling what he called Gayety's medicated paper. Flat sheets, moistened with aloe, with his name watermarked onto every single one. He marketed it as a medical product that would prevent hemorrhoids. The claims were ambitious. The product was real. In 1891, Seth Wheeler patented the toilet paper roll on a spindle. His original patent drawing still exists. It shows the paper rolling over the top. Over, not under. The patent is unambiguous. Everything else, as they say, is revisionism. But here is what this entire history is actually telling you. Every solution humans invented over thousands of years was shaped by the same pressures. What is available? What is affordable? What do the people around me consider normal? Hygiene has never been purely about cleanliness. It has always been about culture, about what a society values and what it quietly ignores. Anthropologist Mary Douglas argued in her landmark 1966 work, Purity and Danger, that what any culture calls dirty is not really about biology. It is about order, about things being out of place. And how a society handles its most literal dirt tells you something profound about how it organizes everything else. The Romans' shared sponge reflected a culture where communal space was normal. The medieval European preference for private rags reflected a very different set of values. The Japanese toilet, today one of the most sophisticated objects in the average home, reflects a culture where cleanliness is near spiritual in its significance. What you use and how you use it, and whether you feel comfortable talking about it at all, is a product of thousands of years of accumulated cultural inheritance. You did not choose your norms. You inherited them. So tonight, when you reach for that roll, consider what it actually represents. Not just convenience, but 10,000 years of human beings solving the same problem with whatever they had. Leaves, stones, sponges, almanacs, rope. Each solution perfectly logical to the people using it. Each one unthinkable to the people who came after. The roll in your hand is not the end of the story. It is just the chapter you were born into.